Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, to the final round of the MAI Bangkok Business Challenge at SASIN 2016. So we're halfway through. We have 6 ventures today to present to our judges. We've already had 3 ventures. Our next venture is all the way from the United States of America. Please welcome Team Produce Power from Cornell University. Okay, so you're in the spotlight now, okay? So let me remind you, you have 30 minutes altogether, and after 5 minutes, it's fully interactive. And then the ladies here will have 2 time warnings, one at 3 minutes before the end, and one at 1 minute before the end, okay? Ready? You nervous?
Very glad to be here.
Okay, all right, so the clock will start as soon as you start. Good luck.
Okay, great. Thank you. We're Team Produce Power. We're from Cornell University. My name is Vincent Kapoor, and along with my teammates, we're very happy to introduce you to our business, which is a sustainable agribusiness focused on the Indian market. Agribusiness begins with farmers. There are over 500 million small farmers, just like this one, who work on 2 hectares of land or less, and they rely largely on their own manual labor for their entire productive output. That means that they have limited control over the quality of the vegetables that they produce, and they have a tough time getting fair pricing in the marketplace. At the same time, there's a new class of consumer in India, the urban professional, that demands fresh, locally grown, and healthy vegetables as part of their lifestyle. However, these types of vegetables are extremely difficult to find in India and often extremely expensive. However, they are willing to pay a premium price. Produce Power was formed to sustainably address the needs of both. We empower farmers by providing training, financing, and construction of solar-powered greenhouses, and we also act as an exclusive channel to distribute high-quality fresh vegetables to premium retail grocers. We address the problems between the farmer and the consumer, and we align their needs to best connect them so that farmers can now tap into a premium, high-quality value chain consumer. These problems include financial barriers, exposure to environmental risks such as weather, pestilence, and insects, as well as limited market power due to the action of aggressive middlemen and volatile spot pricing. When we install our solar-powered greenhouses through an innovative lease-to-own model, the farmers can now protect their crops and get up to 5 times the yield and much better quality vegetables than they were producing before. We also provide exclusive market services and aggregation so that we can collect all of the vegetables from the greenhouses and deliver direct to premium retailers. This results in 5 times yield per the area that the farmer was cultivating, and a high-quality product which can command 2 times the price in the marketplace. That results in 10 times revenue generation potential with the greenhouse compared to before the greenhouse. And this allows us to do an innovative profit-sharing method where we can recover the cost of the greenhouse at 0 out-of-pocket to the farmer.
I'm Meg, Director of Business Development. We will be looking to tap into an $82 million market with the 2 crops we're planning to grow in our greenhouses, capsicum and legumes. And we're planning to do this specifically in the premium markets in the Delhi area. And we would want to launch our project in the neighboring state of Haryana in order to provide farmers with the resources and the comprehensive channel in order to give them access to these new markets.
I'm Catherine, the Chief Operating Officer, and our operational activities focus in 2 main areas: development services, which constitutes the development of these solar-powered greenhouses and gaining community involvement from the farmers, and 2, market services, which is aggregating this produce and bringing it to these high-value markets, maximizing efficiency and profitability for both farmers and Produce Power.
Hi, I'm Jeremy, the CFO of Produce Power. Today we're actually going to be presenting to you a revised growth plan with a revised valuation from what you have in your document. We can discuss this more in detail, but right now suffice it to say that a $500,000 cash investment today for a 10% equity stake will be worth $8 million in 5 years, representing a 16x cash-on-cash investment.
Hi, my name is Holly, and I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer of Produce Power. Beyond the financial returns, we also offer net positive impact to the world by generating both social and environmental returns. And this is because the ability of Produce Power to create impact has a direct correlation with our business expansion. As we electrify more communities and empower more farmers, we become more efficient in creating impact over time. In our first year, the social returns on investment is 0.8. This ratio shows that for every dollar invested in Produce Power, you can generate 80 cents worth of social and environmental value. And this metric triples by 2.7 by 2021, showing that we're becoming increasingly efficient in creating impact. At this point, we're happy to take any question, or if there isn't any, we're happy to dig into our financial plans.
Are you branding your own products and products?
Currently, we're not. We're planning to enter into supply contracts with retail grocers, but that is part of our future expansion after year 5.
Can you explain that again? How are you selling the products that are produced from the farms?
So we're looking at retailers that are selling mostly unbranded produce. So this is the fresh aisle of a grocery store. You would see, accumulation of peppers and green beans for our first 2 products.
And how are you pricing this? You're pricing it 2 times the current pricing in the retail grocers?
Just to clarify, we're going to be pricing at a similar rate to what is currently in place in these premium markets. What we were mentioning with the 2x pricing was that in comparison to what farmers are currently producing and what they're able to get to market now, we would be able to achieve double the price of that.
And
but that's comparable.
How big is this premium grocery market? Is this considered organic products or safety food? I'm just wondering how big is the market?
Sure. We are not currently organic. What we wanted to consider that as part of our long-term strategy, but because that would require higher input costs and it would take some time to get, it would be a large learning curve for our farmers to actually put that in place. So that was part of the reason why we held off on that for now. But in terms of the size of the market, actually is listed at the bottom of the screen, we have 2 main markets that we're looking at. We're looking at gourmet food in terms of premium urban markets, as well as e-grocers potentially, who would be looking to deliver directly to consumers. So the market size total there is about $6.6 billion. But
besides that, can you also just explain, I didn't really catch the technology, like what's the core of this?
Okay, so the core is, Jeremy, can we go to the specification?
Because people have been growing food for a long time, right? And so you're telling me that you're going to get 5 times the yield by doing something. What's that they're not doing, and how can you protect that?
So they're currently not investing in greenhouses. There's a national mission of horticulture.
So that's it? Just some plastic and some metal?
It's also powered by a solar power system.
So some solar panels? We got lots of solar panels in India now.
Yeah, however, there are not a lot of solar panel installations in India that are successfully proven to last for multiple years in an off-grid mode. Most of the construction in India today...
So you got extra durable solar panels and some plastic and metal. Is that it?
So the differentiation here is that my family has been installing off-grid rural electrification projects in India since 1983. We installed the first 32 village-level solar panel systems of any kind in the entire country. We're a premium provider of off-grid solar systems for the Ministry of Defense. We have the best track record for reliability.
Can I invest in your family? I don't want to invest in this startup.
And I have an answer to your question as well. Something that's really important to understand about agriculture is that many technologies can be combined to create combined effects. So what we're talking about here is not only a greenhouse, which provides temperature control throughout the course of the year, but also drip irrigation, so improving the efficiency of the water delivery system. And the combined total of all of these different effects is what gives that 5 times yield. And part of that is extension of the growing season. So right now, farmers are completely non-productive for about 3 months of the year. We're extending that to full year production cycle.
So I get that, and I'm not saying that it's not great, but I'm not detecting where is this real protected thing. That's what I'm sensing, and that's where I'm having a problem with this.
If I could just ask for clarification, referring to our competitive advantage or to the actual value proposition of the business model?
It seems you've already explained 5 times, 2 times. I look in your 5th year, you've got a 30% net margin. So you've got farmers earning 2, 5 times, whatever that is, plus you're earning a 30% net margin. There's a massive amount of profit in this thing, and I don't see where it's coming from. Yeah, and I don't see how someone's not just going to also go into that business right away. It seems like that's pretty simple.
I think there's 2 parts to this question. I'd like to address the first one, which is what is really innovative about this model? Because you're right, a lot of the different technologies taken individually are nothing that revolutionary. Greenhouses, solar, and so on, financing. It's the entire holistic model wrapped in one that is not actually in the market today that makes this model innovative. There are companies that play in one part of the value chain. We play in the entire part of the value chain. So it's part of the problem that we're addressing is that farmers today, smallholder farmers, don't have access to finance. So even though a greenhouse and proper farming techniques and rural electrification would greatly increase their productivity and profitability, they can't do that. Produce Power is unique because it can provide, we put the debt on our books for this equipment, and then we provide a lease-to-own model for the smallholder farmers, in which over time they can not only pay for the interest on those loans, but also actually own the assets over 3 years.
Where is the debt on the books, on your assets?
I'd be happy to go to the pro formas. You can see behind me our balance sheet, and the debt for these are divided between current portion of debt under liabilities and then the long-term debt.
That's your debt.
That's correct.
You're financing these assets. So that's an asset for you, which means that it probably falls under your property, plant, and equipment.
Yes, this is the equipment itself. The equipment itself is on our books. So the property, plant, and equipment, one of the reasons it looks so low is because India provides an accelerated depreciation on solar, and it's 80% in the first year.
So let me just to understand the business model. The assets that are dispersed out through all the different farmers that you're talking about are owned by you.
That's correct, until a 3-year period transitions, at which time the farmers can actually lease to own the equipment, and it will transfer to them, coming off of our books and allowing that capital return to us for future expansion.
Going back to that 5X, right? Can you show, kind of like, is there proof anywhere? Because, like, I still don't understand how you're going to get a 5X yield, right? You mentioned 3 months. Okay, I can understand 3 months, but that's a, what, maybe 33% increase? Where's the rest of it coming from? Because that's 500%.
That's right. So a good portion of it comes from protecting from crop loss, from the exposure to the elements that we mentioned before. The rest of it comes from extending the growing season from 5 months to 12 months.
Just now you mentioned 3, additional 3?
So the 3 is completely unproductive, and in total there are other parts of the year that are less productive based on the growing cycle. So there's a lot of granularity to how much is being produced at any given time. The 3 months is, fallow land, but during other portions of the year it's just significantly less productive.
I'd also like to mention, I think it's a facet of the crop rotation we specifically chose. We are looking at a 2-crop rotation with capsicum and legumes. Legumes are a year-round crop, so that would be providing input in terms of soil nutrition, and capsicum would be the higher return sort of crop that we'd be including. So having those 2 kind of in conjunction, those specifically would get us the extended growing season as well as the higher return in the market.
So that, to me, I can understand maybe doubling, right? But
yeah,
5X?
Yeah, so all of our numbers are based in research. we have a list of advisors here, several of which are
I think what would
horticulture.
convince me is,
horticulture
do you have
experts.
examples of, has it been ongoing? Have you done like, has it been in the market? Has there been like a pilot farm somewhere where you can actually show? Because that would
Yeah.
really convince me, but otherwise it's all.
Yeah,
don't know
so
what it
two of our
is.
advisors, if you look at Paul Salou here, is the CEO of a similar company based in the United States, and we're basing part of our numbers on experience and research provided by this gentleman
Tell us
here.
the success of him.
Right.
That's what we're basing
No,
it on.
no,
Are we?
that's one aspect. But
Is
we've also
his model the same as yours, or it's
No.
a different model?
different model.
Okay, so then there's no benefit from us. Show us something about your model
Right. Can
or
you
your
show-
technology.
So the basis of all of our figures are coming from an accumulated research, not
Right.
only from one person, but talking with a series of advisors and also reviewing literature. So it's a very valid point that we cannot, say without a shadow of a doubt that it would be 5x. And if anything, a lot of the figures out there show that it could be above 5x. So,
I think the question we're asking is, we understand lab research. We're worried about scalability and practical application. The question I think the team has is, this is research. You're basing it off a lot of research. Now, when you take it into the real world, that's what we're asking about. Have you trialed it out in the real world? What are the results? If you have two fields side by side, one with the solar panel or thingy, that greenhouse that you're talking about, and then the other one in open air, and you can show that this one actually produces this amount of tons or kilos of produce, and this one actually produces maybe 3x but generates how much multiple in revenues. If there's some proof in terms of output comparison, I think that's what we're looking for.
You wanna discuss
Otherwise,
the
it's
minimum-
all research, right?
Do you want to discuss our minimum viable
Yeah,
product?
if you could pull it up, that would be great. We are constructing a 400-meter squared greenhouse in India in the state of Haryana this year. There are greenhouses that have been constructed by the Department of Horticulture for the state that do prove that this works, and they will be our continuing source of seedlings as the input to our greenhouses. So in that case, currently in this region that we're looking at, most of the farmers are producing staple crops, which are grains, pulses. These kind of things are extraordinarily susceptible to spot pricing. So
Understand.
the comparison side by side is extraordinarily in our favor and proven.
Exactly. So my question more so is it, because you mentioned, which makes sense, is it a change of crop more so, right? Staple to something that's more high value, that's the value proposition of this business, or is it the solar greenhouse?
There's not one value proposition for this business, and that's part of our focus. We address multiple problems at once, and it's fundamental to the DNA of our business that you have to do that to succeed in emerging markets. Emerging markets are complex, they're volatile, they're constantly changing, and one silver...
That's a bad answer for when you're pitching for money, because I don't want to invest in a lot of things. I want to invest in your core success.
Okay, so then our core success is actually having highly productive, concentrated agricultural assets in close proximity to cities that have a market that will never saturate. And these agricultural areas are consistently receding away from city centers, increasing the footprint, increasing the cost, increasing the unreliability.
It's a business model that you're talking about, which is great. So what we need to know is this going to work? And that's the question that we're all asking, but I think you may have...
Yeah, just which one of you has done the greenhouse before, apart from you? You have...
I have
Are you
experience.
in
I have experience
agriculture?
with off-grid solar in India.
No.
and
What about greenhouse?
not with greenhouses, but with
No,
actual
no one, right?
cultivation in
Okay.
India.
Well, doesn't matter. The other thing is the greenhouse, you need some good ventilation system, right? So for this model, it will be based on, the power will be supplied by the solar panel, right?
That's
correct.
correct.
Yes.
What happened on the rainy days?
There are batteries in the solar system, and we have
So it's not pure solar, right? Or you store
there's energy storage, and there's an intelligent IT-controlled monitor that predicts the weather.
How long can it supply the electric, the battery?
We guarantee enough supply to run the
No, how many hours?
How many hours?
Yeah.
We have a multiple-day backup. And most of this energy...
You have a
sto-
solar panels that can store the
Multiple
electric?
day means what?
Multiple
One day,
days.
multiple days could mean 2 or it could mean 20.
The primary use of power in an agricultural setting is for water pumping. So on all the days of the year that you have excess available sunlight, you pump water from the ground into an above-ground tank, and then you have a pressurized tank.
Well, no, because this greenhouse, you have a drip irrigation system, and you need the pure water. You cannot just pump in and pour it into the plant. It's not going to
You
work.
pump it into a tank.
I know you need some process. That's why I asked.
We do have a process. We do have a process. The process involves filtration, which obviously our Hygia colleagues know very well about. It's not very complicated to install. Then, through the gravitational pressurization, there's a peristaltic pump which meters on a timer, direct drips to the roots of each plant.
My worry is whether your solar panels can provide the continuity supplies of the electrics for your greenhouse or not. Nighttime, rainy days.
That's the role
many
of the
things.
battery and the water storage tank. Solar panels don't produce power at night, so they pump the water during the day into a storage tank, or they fill up a battery for electric power at night.
And I'll reiterate that our existing partner network in India, one of them being one of the foremost solar developers in India.
Who?
And AES is Advanced Electronic Systems. And they have been in India since 1983. They have installed systems for the largest Indian government and private organizations. And we actually beginning, as was mentioned, a minimum viable product in the state of Haryana within the next quarter. So a lot of the questions around viability and proof, while they are corroborated in other business models and research, we of course need to have our own proof of concept. There's a 400 meters squared greenhouse with accompanying array and storage. And this will serve two purposes. One, for proof of concept for our 5x increase, as well as our specification on the greenhouse and the PV.
Yeah, I get that. I understand what you're doing. Your family's been involved in India in solar power for 30 years. So you're obviously aware of the extensive research and development that a company like Reliance does in solar. Have you thought about contacting them and partnering with them on this?
Reliance does develop solar projects, but they usually develop them for the utility scale. So
Sure,
those
but that
are-
doesn't mean they couldn't with that. I happen to know they have specific interest in what you're doing. Second question is, do you know who Cropbox is?
Cropbox?
Yeah, CROPBOX.
I do not.
You should. So Google it when you're done.
Thank you.
Interesting. And then why don't you do any, if you approached a group like Opportunity International so you can get the financing of the equipment off your books and let them do it since they do micro-lending? And I know they're very active all over India. Have you had any relationship with them or contact?
So due to the hybrid nature of our business, it's very impact-driven as well as very financially viable. We have done extensive research in terms of financiers, including both impact investors as well as regular traditional investors, as well as government agencies and grassroots organizations who can help us in various aspects of our business. So
Are you interested in pursuing that?
I'm sorry?
Are you interested in pursuing that?
Pursuing...
If you're referring to specifically taking the assets off of our books and the debt off our books, that's actually part of our value proposition is that because the farmers aren't bankable, somebody else has to hold that. Microfinance is a good solution for many business models.
But not yours.
But not this because of the size of the debt. So for example, a 2,000-meter greenhouse, which is our current specification, along with the accompanying solar and energy storage equipment, would be on the order of $70,000 US. That sounds like a massive amount for a farmer, which it is, and which is why this is a unique business model.
Yeah. And then Opportunity International is not any help in that regard for that kind of amount.
Yeah.
There would be other Indian financiers that would be providing us the debt.
Got
That's
it.
correct.
And an added layer of nuance to the microfinance versus impact investing question is that in comparison of interest rates, the interest rate to the farmer for microfinance in India could be somewhere around 20 or 30%. We're projecting rates around 9% or 12%. So ultimately, it's less being paid into interest, which benefits all of the parties involved.
Well, just for clarification, groups like Opportunity International do not charge interest,
But for a scale of this the size of this investment, it would be difficult
Point
to secure.
Okay, I noticed in your plan, you mentioned that in Q3 this year, you plan to validate minimum viable products. Have you not validated it before?
That's where we will be constructing our own greenhouse on land that we control.
No, no, no. You asked for the money, but you haven't validated.
We're not using funds in our investment round to build that. We're building that with our own funds.
It doesn't matter whether it's investment round or not, but the point is, if this model hasn't been validated, how would the people like us and the investor be willing to invest in it?
If I may, the purpose of the minimum viable product is not necessarily to corroborate that it is possible to
If
achieve
not
a 5X,
necessary, why you do it?
but rather to prove that
I mean, you should do only necessary things, right? A must do, not a nice to do.
So
right?
the must do here is that we take a capsicum directly from a greenhouse that we own to a buyer and say, we grew this, this is what we can sell, and that not only is used to attract the contracts that we're currently in negotiation for, but then we take the same capsicum to the farmer and say, this is what we grew, and this is who we're talking to, and this is why you should be our partner.
Yeah, that is how you deal with the farmers, right? But for us, if you haven't validated, how can you make us comfortable?
well, we invite an ongoing relationship. This is something that.
Jeremy, can
Yes.
we go to the slide that shows?
We will keep the relationship.
If you'll allow me to offer
Which side,
little-
Vince?
the slide that about venture investment in the food services. If you'll allow me to sweeten the pot a little bit for why you guys should be excited about food. You should not be excited about power in India, right? Power services business is something that if you sign an energy services contract, you're locked in for 20 years. But food is the most exciting space for venture investment in India today. As you can see, online retailers alone raised over $150 million. These are retailers that deliver fresh produce direct to the door of urban professionals, some of which we had conversations with right here in this room yesterday about people who are actively purchasing fresh produce online. These businesses can only scale if they have a company like ours who reliably provides fresh produce.
For the 500,000, how much do we get in the company?
10% equity stake.
Okay, so, and really what we're talking about is you're still in the proof of concept stage. But once you do that, let's just say that you do that and you're successful, then the business will take off. Will you need more financing at that time, or will that 500,000 and the money that you have be enough?
That will be enough to commercially launch in India in
Okay,
2017.
so let me make an offer to you. How about this? You don't need that 500,000 because that's for commercial operations, which you're not at yet. You're proving concept. So how about this? I'll give you 300,000, and I want 50% of the share of the business when commercial operations is proven that it can work, and then I'll put in the remaining 200,000. So for the 500,000 I put in, but I want 50%, because I'm willing to go with you for this period of time. What do you say?
Well, it's fantastic that you've given us an offer direct to...
Have you seen Shark Tank?
We have.
So that was a no or yes?
Well,
I think we need to have a
I
huddle
think there's a
on
follow-on
that.
conversation
It's a big
that
decision.
we'll be happy to have with you.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Sorry, I just removed the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I mean, what time is it? 3 minutes. Yeah, to be completely honest, the stage of this competition, we prepared to the best of our ability to be ready today to ask for investments, but I think that it's a valid point. We need to prove the concept, and we plan on doing so, and are really hopeful to have your support and advice in doing
And this
so.
is just starting, right? Because like if you're in Thailand, you hear all the time about disease, about drought, about rainy days. I think the question the other judge was asking is like, what if you get like extended periods, like 2 weeks? What happens if the crop dies? Things like that. So like, what about all the other risks? Are you taking insurance, or how are you planning against those?
Yeah, insurance is incorporated into our costs, crop loss insurance, that's correct.
The beautiful thing about this model is that we smooth out the risks for the downstream buyers as well as for the farmers, right? That the risks are not aligned. Farmers, there are 300,000 farmer suicides in India since 1995. Farmers are exposed to extraordinary risk, especially if they're doing staple crops that have 2 harvests a year. A 40-minute hailstorm before the crop is harvested could knock out half of their income. So these are the same farmers that we're relying on to feed the rest of the country.
Understand, which is probably why I see in your figures, right? You only had, what, 2 million in 2021 in revenues?
We've revised those figures based on the feedback from the earlier rounds.
Correct.
We've
correct.
expanded
Which is
from-
fine, but that to me is not a scalable product, right? Because you're focused on very niche, what I would call niche, and maybe high-priced produce. So that kind of like limits the market size.
So inherent to our plan is also the ability to diversify in terms of what produce we're offering. And something really important to know about our model is one of the services that we're providing to farmers is that sort of intelligence about what the market is demanding, what these high-end retailers want. So
Which is very difficult, I tell you, right? Because in Thailand, it's the same thing everywhere. Any produce that sells for a good price, everybody will start planting that. The next year or the next cycle, then the price drops, and then people will go to the other crop, which gets a high price. There's no solution right now globally in terms of how you tackle that, because it's very hard to control, like you said, so many hundreds of thousands of farmers. They will go where the price takes them, and they're not that intelligent, and you're not that intelligent, and you can't control them, right?
Well, we can control for seasonality, which allows us to produce when other farmers are not.
Mr. Stotts, maybe we could reopen that discussion over a drink later, but today that sounds fantastic.
Wonderful.
This is addressing the root problems, produce power, of problems of productivity in India. It's small farmers with low productivity. Greenhouses is really the only way you can do this.
That's why I was initially interested in your product. You mentioned productivity 5x. If it was rice, if it was corn, if it was like typical products, you'd have a big, big market. This sounds to me like you're converting them from planting basic crops to more high-value crops, which is kind of like a slightly different model, which works. Not that it doesn't work. It's just the market is very, very different, right? And the size of the market is very different.
Thank you. I'm afraid we've run out of time already. Thank you very much. Produce Power from Cornell University.